best coverage of the top stories in sports. The Sports Wrap with Jason Page starts now.
Yes, it does on this October 12th, 2023. Good to have you with us. The vodcast is commencing. Sam Yarnell will be here in a moment. Chat with him about... We got 60 minutes of just topics today. 60 minutes. When I take a day off, it usually leads to a backlog of things that I want to talk about. And yesterday I took the day off, so Sam did the show solo. Nice job, by the way, Sam. I give you kudos. It is not an easy thing to man this thing by yourself, and I thought you did a nice job with it. So, congratulations on that. What are you just nodding your head for? You're on camera, dude.
I don't know when I'm on camera and when I'm not. I don't want to talk over your ISO.
If I am talking to you, you are on camera.
I thought you were going to go on this spiel, this opening monologue. I thought I was just going to be a small cog in a big machine,
no,
Jason.
You are a big cog in the big machine today. You are a big cog in the big machine. Look, I got to get Brian Kenny on the show. Maybe we'll do it next week. Maybe I'll get him tomorrow. I don't know. I got to get him in the next couple of days. Problem is, his show, if I'm not mistaken, is on at the exact same time as us. So I think I have to pre-tape. I think he does noon Eastern, Monday through Friday on MLB Network. So if I do something with him, I have to tape, which is never a problem. I mean, technology is wonderful. We can do that. But I've got to arrange it. And for me, pre-taping means getting up really early because I'm on the West Coast where his show starts at 9 a.m. and where we start at 9 a.m. West Coast, West Coast.
I tell you a hilarious Brian Kenny story that you'll have to share with him when he comes on the show. But, had to be 10 years ago, maybe less, maybe 7 years ago.
When you were 13?
I think I was 15 or 16.
Right.
But the Major League Baseball's winter meetings were held just down the road in National Harbor in Maryland.
Okay.
And this was at the peak of me being a high school TV journalist.
Nice.
So I went with my mother, and she and I walked around and interviewed as many people as I could. And Brian Kenny was one of them. And he gave me the most time out of anybody that was there that gave me an interview. And I'll never forget it. Brian Kenny and I just standing in the middle of all of these famous people. And I was just standing there interviewing him, holding a little cell phone up to my mouth. And my mom was there recording on another cell phone. And it was just awesome. That's all I can think about when I think of Brian Kenny.
Yeah, I hate saying this because I've said it to you off the air. And as people may or may not know, Sam's a lot younger than me. He's basically half my age. I actually just realized that. You're half my age. I'm 46. You're 23. I just realized you're actually half my age. Oh, my God. I'm so old. But your career and the stuff you tell me about what you were doing in your team, it parallels so much of what happened in my own career, which is maybe why I like you so much, because I had the same sort of experience. When I was a senior in high school, they started a high school television station. We were it was revolutionary at that time. We're talking 1994. We had a high school television station. And in New Haven, they had these various celebrity softball games and things like that. And I remember as somebody who was 17, 18 years old interviewing Bob Costas. And it's that same sort of holy moment. Especially then, you're talking Bob Costas was huge.
Right.
In the late 90s. I mean, he's still a name now, and it's a venerable sort of thing. But in the 90s, Bob Costas was Bob Costas. And I interviewed Bob Costas. This was when the wild card was first introduced in baseball, like the original wild card being introduced in baseball. And he and I literally had a 5-minute interview, 6-minute interview at Yale Field, which is where the New Haven Ravens used to play. And it's famous because Babe Ruth played there. George H.W. Bush played there. It's a very famous stadium, and obviously Yale University. But he and I standing on this field having this interview, about the wild card and literally debating it point for point. And there's like 5,000 people in the stands getting ready to watch a baseball game. And those are those sort of pinch me moments as a kid where you're like, oh my God, I'm actually doing this. And there's video and all this stuff. I still got all the VHS cassettes of these things, and it's kind of wild. And so when I hear you tell that Brian Kenny story, it reminds me of being a teenager and doing these interviewing Warren Sapp when he was literally about to get drafted out of Miami at the Walter Camp football game, and interviewing Warren Sapp and him almost tearing my head off as a 17-year-old prior to the interview. Terrifying stuff. So it just kind of reminds me of these things when I hear you tell that story. Baseball. Let's get into it. I said this on the show a couple of days ago, and you kind of sloughed it off. Has your mind changed any on the idea that the rest that these teams are getting now? Because we've seen it with the Orioles now, we've seen it with the Dodgers. The Braves are potentially on their way out. We saw what happened to the Rays, who were a 100-win team. Different situation, obviously. They didn't have the long rest. But talk about these teams that had to sit around and wait to play and the struggles they've had. And I really do have to wonder, baseball's knee-jerk. We've seen them, react to things on a dime. And I have to wonder, and this is something I want to ask Brian when I get him on, I have to wonder if baseball's going to try to look to tweak this somehow. And I don't know how you do it while having more teams, because they got to play against somebody, and somebody has to wind up getting rest. So I don't know how baseball does it. But you can't help but wonder, were the Dodgers just a flawed team that somehow won 100 games still? Or the Orioles just a terribly flawed team that still won 100 games in the toughest division in baseball? I don't know how to take the equation and put all this together and make it fit to make me understand why all the best teams are going home prior to the AL and NLCS.
Well, I think it's nuanced in that because of that very last thing you said. Is that true? Are the best teams going home? The Houston Astros are a team that's seemingly been in the World Series every one of the last 6 years. Like, it seems like you look up and the Astros are just on their way to another World Series. And they're normally a pretty high seed. I think that they will, to answer your question, because, like you said, incredibly knee-jerk. We see it with the pitch clock. We see it with the base sizes. We see it with everything. I wouldn't be surprised if next year we have some like play-in pool kind of thing where maybe you put all of the top seeds or the top seeds in each league in a 2-game series, and whoever scores the most, has the best run differential, or wins, if you sweep the other team, then
how about we just get rid of 2 out of 3 and have the one game? How about the one game? If you're the third and fourth, if you're the second and third wild card, just do one game.
I don't think it's that. I think it's every wild card should be one game. And I said this on the show the other day, right? Like the one game wild card is part of the magic of baseball.
Yes.
To me, it's part of the reason that the MLB postseason is so special and also so volatile. And you talk about the betting side of things. If you bet on the Washington Nationals to win the World Series when they were a wild card team in 2019, you're still counting the units you won off of that bet. Seriously, like it just opens up the sport, in my opinion, in so many other ways. And I get that, they want more butts and seats and more games and more hot dogs sold and all that kind of thing, more TV, more time on air, that kind of thing. But at the end of the day, the time on air and the quality of the product doesn't matter when the quantity of it is too much, right? It's the whole quantity and quality balance that they talk about in economics or whatever that, area of life is that I have no idea about. But it's the whole quantity and quality balance, and MLB had it struck pretty well there for a while, and then they just tried to mess with it because they got greedy. So yeah, they got to go back to the one game wild cards, even if they had more teams.
Yeah, I can't see maintaining the status quo. Because, and look, I don't know if there's enough data, and we're data guys, and I try not to get too knee deep in statistics. I was talking to you about this off the air before the show today, that the majority of people are just watching games. They're not getting buried in statistics. But it feels like the rest is hurting these teams. Baseball, and here's the thing. Baseball's a game that's meant to be played every day. Baseball's not a game that's meant to have these long layoffs. It's not the NFL where guys need a week to recover, And yes, you'd like to be able to get your rotation set up in a certain way, and I appreciate that. But I can't help but think that, not facing live pitching, not facing real pitching, for a week has to have something to do with the fact that a team as good as the Dodgers, I mean, offensively, that team was really good this year. Look at some of the guys on that roster. They got 3 potential guys that you could count as MVP candidates, and they couldn't hit against the Diamondbacks for 3 straight games. They could not hit the Diamondbacks. And I get it. Zach Gallen's a nice pitcher, and they got some of these guys. But, I mean, the Dodgers should have been able to do more than that offensively. And again, I don't think there's enough data in terms of years of this structure. But how many years are you going to need top seeds losing and not winding up on baseball's biggest showcase towards the end of the season before you make a change? I don't know. I'm at a loss. And you know what? I'm happy for the Diamondbacks. I'm excited to see a Rangers-Astros ALCS because those two teams don't like each other very much right now. And you could potentially have a rivalry there now for the next several years. That whole AL West really hates each other. The Mariners hate the Astros hate the Mariners. The Rangers, feel like they've been short shrift but from as far as Houston's concerned, and Houston's been the big dog in town. That AL West is actually a pretty compelling division now.
Yeah, I think that it's very interesting to me because just kind of thinking about how Major League Baseball has changed over the course of the last 5 years, really, it kind of seems like they had made these rules almost to appease or appeal to Shohei Ohtani, right? Giving these lower seeds the better chance to go deeper into the playoffs. They knew that Ohtani and Trout would need to win at some degree to stay in LA, and the Angels were never going to be a high seed, especially playing in the AL West and also having the Astros on top of them. It's very interesting because now I'm thinking about it like, yeah, the Angels, when you look at the Angels on paper and we talk about them so much preseason, right? They're built to win a wild card series and sell those tickets. So that's an interesting angle to look at it through. And I wonder if MLB doesn't go back to the 1-game series now that Shohei is going to be in a huge market. It's also market-based, right? Baseball is a market-based sport. And having these top seeds, where top seeds usually play, they usually play in bigger markets, right? You're talking about the Dodgers. You're talking about the Astros, Houston, big market. You're talking about the Mets were supposed to be really good. So were the Yankees, New York. When big teams in big markets lose, it's also bad for baseball. So they're going to have to do something because I just got done talking yesterday, Jason, about how baseball is in such a good place. And I think that it very much is. They just got to figure out the playoff structure a little better.
Yeah, they certainly do. All right. Kudos. Look, you got to give it up for Bryce Harper. And I'm laughing about this because yesterday you're crushing the guy. I mean, you're crushing him. And I'm sitting here listening to it and I'm going, And then he goes out and hits 2 home runs and single-handedly buries the Braves yesterday to give the Phillies a 2-1 series lead and put the Braves on the brink of going home. They'll go today, 8:07 p.m. Eastern, first pitch over on TBS for that game. And I haven't looked at the odds on it yet. But, the Braves are on the verge after this, memorable, historic regular season that they went on. The Braves are on the verge of going home. And look, say what you want about Bryce Harper. The guy showed up in a big spot yesterday and puts the Braves, as I said, on the brink. Braves minus 154, by the way. Phillies plus 130. If you want the Braves on the run line, minus a run and a half, plus 112. Phillies plus a run and a half, minus 134 and 8.5 is your total. But you were upset about something else as it pertained to this Bryce Harper Arcia thing. So I wanted to give you a second to sort of let it rip on that.
Yeah, well, first of all, I just wanted to say that as much as we want to create this narrative, and I don't count myself as part of that, we being the media, the national media, this narrative has created itself that Bryce Harper is this all clutch postseason player, and he's single-handedly carrying the enough. Bryce Harper, famously one of the least clutch postseason hitters. If you go back and look through his numbers, he's had like 2 good playoff series ever. This being one of them, the NLCS last year when he was NLCS MVP being the other. He's a career less than 300 hitter in the playoffs. He hits 280 in the playoffs. This is not Babe Ruth or David Ortiz or postseason legends like that, like the latter. Listen, he did the same thing he's doing in this Brave series against the San Francisco Giants back in 2014. I watched it happen live. He hits a bunch of really long homers off of good pitching, but at the end of the day, his team still can't get it done. A lot of parallels between that 14 Nationals team and this 23 Phillies team. I'll just leave that at that. The real story here is what everyone's been talking about on social media. It's the Bryce Harper stare down of Orlando Arcia after both of his home runs. Sure, go ahead and do that if there's warranted means, right? But really, to me, it's just a bad look for Bryce Harper because the report that Orlando Arcia actually said, I believe the quote was "attaboy Harper," after the Phillies loss in Atlanta, was the most fake ballsack sports tweet that I've ever seen on X, on Twitter. I can't believe Bryce Harper fell for it, but I think it's very embarrassing for him that he did. So the reason I say this is because if you go back at the original journalist who tweeted the quote, it's a blogger who blogs about the Philadelphia Phillies. I don't buy for a second that Orlando Arcia ever said this. I also don't buy it because Orlando Arcia does not speak fluent English, does not speak English at all, as a matter of fact. He uses a translator anytime he speaks to the media. So the fact that he would say something like this in English in front of the media, which is what the story says, just rings even more untrue to my ears. Let's also consider this. I see the narrative when people say what I just said. The comeback is generally, oh, but these Spanish-speaking players speak in the clubhouse in English all the time to each other. As a matter of fact, that's incorrect. As someone who's spent years playing with Spanish-only speaking baseball players, as a bilingual native Spanish speaker myself, it's more the other way when you look at baseball dugouts. It's generally the native English speakers trying to speak Spanish, learning things from their Hispanic teammates who can teach them little sayings and things like that are generally said towards opposition or umpires so that they won't understand them. I've been right in the middle of those conversations on both sides of them as well. It's a ridiculous thing for Bryce Harper to do. It's a childish look for him. And quite frankly, if he had a real problem with what Orlando Arcia said and wasn't just trying to make this a big story and bring more attention upon himself, because he's been addicted to attention since he was 15 years old, which was 15 years ago, Bryce, time to grow up a little bit. He wouldn't have done what he did. He would have kept his head down. He would have celebrated with his bullpen like he always does when he rounds the bases. He would have done something else that everyone else would have found flashy and would have, quite frankly, been okay. Targeting someone else for something that they allegedly said without confronting them first is childish, ignorant, and just shows who Bryce Harper really is. So I hope that he showed all of you the way that he showed me, for 11 years now, who he really is as a person, because it was there on display on the baseball diamond in Philadelphia last night.
Here's the thing. Athletes throughout time, go back to the GOAT of GOATs, Michael Jordan. Athletes are always looking for motivation. Athletes are always looking for the bad guy. They're always looking for a villain. They're always looking for something to push them to that extra level. I'm not saying that any of what you're saying is untrue. I can go back and forth on the, Spanish-speaking players that speak English behind closed doors and then bring out an interpreter when they're on the field. Jason Dominguez, is a great example of this with the Yankees. He's out there with an interpreter, during the 2-week run he had with the Yankees. But you could see he understood basically everything that was being spoken in English and at times even spoke in English. So you can go back and forth on that sort of thing. I don't have a problem with Harper doing what he did, honestly, because I have now reluctantly, I have accepted the fact that we live in a world, not sports world, by the way. And I'm glad you brought this whole thing up today because this is something I've wanted to talk about. We live in this WWE world. We live in a world of heels and villains and kayfabe and this culture. Yeah. WWE culture isn't just WWE culture. It isn't just wrestling culture. It is now taken hold in every aspect of life. Go look at politics. Matt Gaetz lives to be the heel. Marjorie Taylor Greene lives to be the heel. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez lived to be, in her mind, the face. But to conservatives, she's the heel. There's all these. We live in a world now, as polarized as it is, we live in a world of heels and faces. You're either a heel or you're a face. And sometimes at some point, you wind up being both. So I've already kind of given up on the idea that we're simply watching games and enjoying them and that this culture doesn't exist. It kind of bubbled under the surface, with bat flips and stare downs and, Hector Neris going after Julio Rodriguez the way he did. The only thing missing was him ripping off his shirt and doing a Hulk Hogan ear thing. That was the only thing missing from that equation. I've just become more convinced than ever that that's just the culture we live in sports. And you don't have to like it, but you got to kind of accept that that's sort of where we are in sports. As far as the Bryce Harper thing with you and his conversations in postseason, he's a career 282 postseason hitter. I mean, that's hardly bad. He had 2 really bad postseasons, 2012, the 5 games there, and 2017. But he's a career 282 hitter, and in 41 postseason games, he's got 14 home runs and 28 RBIs. And again, some of those were in bunches. Obviously, last year being the big one with the 17. He played 17 games in that postseason, had 6 home runs. I get all that. I don't think he's a bust in the postseason the way we've seen some guys sort of struggle in the postseason.
He's not playoff Kershaw. He's not playoff Kershaw by any means.
He is not playoff Kershaw. And no, I don't think he's Babe Ruth or Bernie Williams. Go look at Bernie Williams' postseason numbers, by the way.
Sure, Mr. October.
Yeah, Mr. October. But he's done a nice job. And look, I mean, the guy's got an opportunity here to lead. They're 1 game away from being 4 games away from back-to-back trips to the World Series. And when you went and got Bryce Harper, as the Phillies franchise did, this was the expectation. When you gave him that contract, this was the expectation, was that he could be the guy that helps to bring you to the promised land as an organization. And he's delivered. I mean, he put him in the World Series. They were in the World Series last year, and he's got an opportunity to go, back to the World Series again this year. So, just saying.
He's delivered. Whoa. Back that up. No. Bryce Harper signed with the Philadelphia Phillies ahead of the 2019 season, which means that this is his 5th, 4th. I'm bad at math. Whatever. He's made the postseason twice in Philadelphia. They were a win now team when they signed him. They've made the postseason at best half of the years he's spent there. One of those years, they got no hit in the postseason.
Do you realize if they win 1 World Series in the course of his deal to Phillies fans, to that organization, to ownership, it will have been worth it. That's all it takes.
I would be interested is that the case though?
Yes,
because that
absolutely.
But so okay, so then let me speak to my Philly fans.
It's like Matt Stafford. It's like Matt Stafford in LA with the Rams. They went and made that deal and got him. If they win one, hold on. But if they win 1 Super Bowl with him, and in a year or 2 he retires.
The Phillies were a dynasty a decade and a half ago, and they were a Dynasty. I mean, you're talking about by
They won
saying
one
that,
World
you're saying
Series.
that
Wait, you're talking a decade and a half ago. They won one World Series.
then they went to 3 in a row.
They won one. They only won one.
So if Bryce wins one, he's automatically more important to that franchise than Chase Utley, Jimmy Rollins.
I'm not saying more important. No. All I'm arguing, Sam, is that it will have validated the faith they put in him with that deal.
300 and whatever million.
Right. That's all. That's all I'm arguing. Sure. I'm not saying.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it. I'm not putting them above that group of Phillies with Charlie Manuel and Ryan Howard and all those guys. I'm not. No. I'm not doing that.
That was a fun team.
It was.
Yeah.
It was fun watching the Yankees. It was fun watching the Yankees beat them too. I think I still got the sweatshirt, the World Series sweatshirt in my closet. Hold on. Let me see if I can find it. Hold on. Here. Hold on. You talk.
Okay, I'll fill some time because I will just say that watching that World Series, I think it was 2000. What was that? 2009.
Let's get the patch.
Yeah, that was one of the more fun World Series. Yeah, 2009. So I'm right. That was one of the more fun World Series ever. I mean, that Phillies team, absolutely stacked. Who was? It was Cliff Lee, Roy Halladay, and then on the Yankees, you had CC Sabathia. I think they had AJ Burnett at that point as well. Obviously, you had Mo coming out of the pen. Those were two very, very fun teams to watch, Jason. I was just talking about the pitching staffs on both of those teams. For the Phillies, it was who? It was Doc. It was Cliff Lee. Who else did they have that year? There's another big starter.
Pedro was on that team, and the year the Yankees won. The year the Yankees beat the Phillies. Pedro Martinez was on that staff.
Holy
2009.
crap.
Yeah, 2000. Go look at 2009. I think they went either they trade for him or he was there all year. But the Yankees hit him pretty hard if I recall correctly. 2009 Phillies postseason roster. I'm pretty sure Pedro was. Let's see if I got it here.
Cole Hamels was the one I couldn't think of. I don't see Pedro Martinez.
Pedro Phillies.
Oh yeah, Pedro Martinez right there. Yeah, he played in 9 games.
Yes, and he pitched in the postseason. And the Yankees hit him pretty hard if I remember correctly, which is always great. Anytime the Yankees beat Pedro, we loved it. All right. Let's take a quick timeout. We'll come back. We'll preview the Thursday night NFL game. Get into that. I've got some stuff to get into on Aaron Rodgers that I've been holding back on for the last few days. We'll talk about that as well. Stick around. We got a lot more to do. Sports Wrap on this Thursday, October 12th, 2023. Don't go anywhere. Sports Wrap continues for this Thursday, October 12th, 2023. Jason and Sam hanging out with you. Coming up at about 15, I will get some Aaron Rodgers stuff off my chest. I've been a good boy so far this season. That ends today. Taking the gloves off. So we'll get to that coming up. It also involves Pat McAfee and ESPN as a whole, but we'll get into all that. All right, Thursday night football tonight. I'm trying to figure out a way to get myself pumped up for Denver and Kansas City. Divisional matchup. I've got to be honest. I'm shocked, Sam. And again, I hear Admiral Akbar in my head going, it's a trap. Oh. It's saying, why it's 10.5? Why isn't this 14? Why isn't it 14 and a half? And that's, again, when I see these things, it immediately is a red flag to me. Denver's plus 10.5. The money line, Denver's plus 440. Kansas City is minus 590. Lots of juice. You like it a juice. And 46.5 is the total. Oh, yes! Look at Sam. He's all excited.
CLV. That's what I'm talking about. That's great. The total's already gone down a point from when I bet this game this morning. This game's going under. I'm betting on the Chiefs team total over 29.5. And I'm cooking up a crazy parlay, Jason. Parlayed the Chiefs over 29.5 team total and the under 47.5 in the game. You're getting better than 5-1 on that parlay. I know it's because it's a very small window, but I love it. I love it. We know that teams that unders hit when the Chiefs score more than 20 points. The under is something like 9 out of the last 12 or something. I don't know. Someone's got the number out there. Anyway, I love the under in this game. Love the Chiefs team total over. It's a bet against the Broncos. We're betting on the Chiefs, but we're doing it with totals.
I have PTSD from what happened last week with you. And it wasn't even my pick. I have PTSD, so when I hear you this enthusiastic about this stuff,
I'm always enthusiastic.
You're giving me. I'm just having flashbacks to you last week. Several unit play. You were like Jim Cramer on Mad Money, going win. Like, I mean, it was hard. That was tough to watch. It's not often you get to watch a grown man die on television. You know, because there's just only certain things that are allowed on video these days. You know, we blur things out. I watched a grown man, well, barely, but I watched a grown man die yesterday, last week on this very show. So I'm hoping for you. I'm not following you to the ticket window for that one. Sorry, because I mean, I gotta kind of take a week off after what took place last week. Mahomes 272 is the passing yardage total. Russell Wilson 217.5 is the passing yardage total. See, and I gotta be honest, I think both of these go over because I disagree. I think the game's going over.
Okay. My biggest play is the Chiefs team total. That's my thermonuclear warhead play of the night. We're going double unit on this one because we went quadruple unit on the last one, and we're still fighting back from that. So we're going double unit. Chiefs,
a lot of ramen. Is there a lot of ramen this week? There's a lot of ramen noodles. A lot of Maruchan.
It was a lot of ramen noodles. We showered with some rainwater. You had to put grandma in a new, cheaper nursing home.
She doesn't have the motorized wheelchair anymore. She had to actually roll the wheels. She had to roll the wheels.
Needs an athletic scholarship now because his college tuition's gone.
Oh, my God. What is Isaiah Pacheco's rushing yards? Because everybody loves him right now, man. Pacheco
is a great time to fade him. Just saying.
Pacheco is 77.5. It's not very high. Even Mahomes at 20.5, I would tend to go over on.
I would rather for Pacheco go over 92.5 rushing and receiving yards. That seems like much more of a gimme to me. But I'm not touching either of those. I don't like the props in this game. I might throw out an anytime touchdown score. I might throw out a goblin mode first touchdown score if you follow me on Twitter or X at Sam_Yarnell. You'll have to stay tuned for that. Turn on tweet notifications. And maybe I'll throw out a nice little plus 1,800 first touchdown score.
Yeah, if I'm gonna, I'll here's what I'm gonna give the listeners tonight, because I know Jerry in Louisville, Texas, takes our Thursday night bets very seriously. I'm gonna go the Mahomes and Wilson overs. As a matter of fact, I would probably parlay the two, because I think this is an over game. Denver's defense is not very good. You play to the scoreboard, too. You get up big. Wilson gets a few. I mean, and frankly, Denver's offense at times has shined this season. And honestly, and I talked about this with Nick Ferguson when we had him on the show last, I think Russell Wilson's actually played pretty well. That's what makes this start for them so bad. Yes, everybody's going to point to the fumble late last week against the Jets, and I know Sean Payton is. But if you look through the first 5 games of the season, Russell Wilson's actually played pretty well. Statistically speaking, he has actually played pretty well. Just saying. I'm not saying he's Russell Wilson of 7 years ago, but I don't think they're losing games because of Russell Wilson.
I think they are, whether it's because of his play or not. I think it's been decided. I think this year was kind of the nail in the coffin. Russell Wilson is a horrible teammate and not a good leader.
That stuff I don't disagree with you. I'm not even talking. I'm just talking purely from a numbers standpoint.
Yeah, right. Between the sidelines, he's a great football player, right? But
good.
I think
he's good. I won't say great, but he's still good.
That, right. Good. Yeah, sure. Better than average, even. I still think he's the reason they're losing games. I just don't think his play is the reason they're losing games.
Man, could you imagine if they have to go back to the drawing? Did Sean Payton take that job? This is an interesting question before I let you go, because I know you got to go. Did Sean Payton take that job? And did he ever think in the back of his mind that this thing might have to be a teardown and a rebuild? Because I mean, you're on the verge of that. They lose tonight. They're 1-5.
Yeah, right.
You're 1-5 this season. The season's a wrap. You have to start thinking about, all right, do we tank for Caleb Williams? I mean, think about it. There's a lot at play here based on what the outcome of tonight's game is, which is a fait accompli to most of us, and we think we know what's going to happen. But I mean, you're talking about Sean Payton, who took this job thinking, he's getting Russell Wilson and was going to be able to kind of revive this thing and fix it. They're 1-4. The season's over after tonight. And you're talking about a teardown and a rebuild. Did Sean Payton come out of retirement? Look, there was all this talk of Sean Payton was going to wait until he got the perfect job. He's got to be second-guessing himself on some level at this point. He's got to be saying, man, maybe if I stayed in the booth another year, the Cowboys fall apart and I get the Cowboys job. Maybe San Diego doesn't reach expectations. Brandon Staley's out of a job. I get Justin Herbert in L.A. Right. I mean, he's got to be thinking to himself, man, did I come out a year too soon?
Well, I think that the better question that we should ask ourselves is, where does Russ go from here? Right? Because sure, Sean Payton could stick around for a rebuild, but even if they're rebuilding, I don't think that they're going to finish bad enough to get the number 1 overall pick. And I don't think they're, quite frankly, even going to finish bad enough to get Drake May. So they'd be trading up to get those players, even if they're trading up only 4 spots, 3 slots, whatever it is. You're not trading Russell Wilson to move those. So does Russ get forced into retirement now? When you talk about Sean Payton, he needed a quarterback who was going to play the Drew Brees style. He needed a pocket passer who was going to be a great leader in the locker room, who he could conform the offense around. Russell Wilson is not that. I don't know where Sean Payton goes from here. I don't know if Sean Payton rebuilds the Broncos. I think we can definitely say that the Broncos are going to have to enter rebuild. I don't know if Peyton sticks around for it. Maybe he goes to New England after Bill Belichick is forced into retirement.
Again, does he want to rebuild? Does he want a complete tear down and rebuild? Because if he goes to New England, that's what he's getting. By the way, mock drafts right now, some of the ones I'm looking at have Drake May potentially winding up in Denver.
Really?
Because Chicago first 2 picks. Caleb Williams and Marvin Harrison Jr. could wind up being there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's
and then you'd have Denver.
Yeah. And then you'd have Denver at 3.
I would like Drake May with Sean Payton, because I think Drake May can be the kind of quarterback that Sean Payton needs.
Yeah. Yeah, there's something to be said for that. It's interesting. So much season left. I'm looking at mock drafts. Jesus. I'm in trouble. All right. Sam Yarnell, ladies and gentlemen. Find him on Twitter. Well, X, formerly known as Twitter. Sam_Yarnell. Maybe he'll put some picks out there, and hopefully he doesn't lead you to the ramen
Just
noodles.
got in on a first touchdown scorer. I'll give it out later. You got to follow me.
Hopefully you don't wind up eating ramen noodles all week like he did.
That's true.
Sam, have a great night. I'll talk to you later, man.
Talk to you tomorrow, Jason.
All right. Sam Yarnell, ladies and gentlemen. All right. Stick around. I got to get into Aaron Rodgers here for a couple of minutes. We'll do that on the other side. Other side of what? If you're listening on the podcast, we're going to be talking about it immediately. But if you're watching us, we'll take a quick pause and we'll come back. Sports Wrap on this Thursday. All right, getting set to close out this edition of the Sports Wrap for this Thursday, October 12th. If you haven't subscribed to the podcast yet, please do so. We're on every podcasting platform you need to be on. And we're also available to watch Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern for an hour. You can watch the show daily over on X at the back page, on Twitch, Jason Page 77, and just look for the Sports Wrap over on YouTube or Facebook. You can watch it there as well. God, looking at mock drafts. My head wants to explode when I start looking at mock drafts. Almost as badly as my head wants to explode when I hear Aaron Rodgers talking about anything other than football. Is it? I've tried to stay away from the personal side of the Aaron Rodgers stuff that bothers me. And frankly, he hasn't given much reason to get into the stuff about him that irks me. And then in the last few days, you started to hear again with Rodgers, who clearly has too much time on his hands. I guess rehab isn't absorbing enough time for Aaron Rodgers, that he's got to start going in on this vaccine stuff again and going after Travis Kelce, who clearly is vaccinated and has been doing a campaign, an ad campaign for Pfizer. And Aaron Rodgers calls him Mr. Pfizer, and then people are calling him Mr. Johnson & Johnson, and he's talking about let's debate. Let's you and me, Travis Kelce, let's do a debate. This is why Aaron Rodgers has won Super Bowl, by the way. This is why. Part of it, for certain. This is part of the reason why Aaron Rodgers has won Super Bowl. The same number as Brad Johnson. Same number as Trent Dilfer. The same number as Doug Williams. I can keep going. The one-hit wonder quarterbacks that won a Super Bowl. A lot of guys got one. The truly elite of the elite, the greatest of all time, they have more. And sure, Aaron Rodgers is going to be in the Hall of Fame one day. I don't think any of the nonsense that he talks about is going to keep him out of the Hall of Fame. But what's the point? What's the point if you're Aaron Rodgers? It goes back to something we were talking about earlier in the podcast, and I hope you were listening earlier on when we talked about heels and faces. And Aaron Rodgers wants to be a heel so bad. Aaron Rodgers wants to be the bad guy, and he gets the platform with Pat McAfee, who will let him say anything he wants and not challenge him. We've been through this a million times before because Pat McAfee isn't serious. Pat McAfee is Howard Stern for sports. Yay, ESPN. How you feeling about that move right now? And Pat says they haven't come down on him at all for any of the stuff that's been said on the show or any of the controversy that it generates, like this Aaron Rodgers stuff. But you know behind the scenes, the Disney folks, the bean counters, the ones that really matter, the ones who determined all those people that lost their jobs at ESPN during the spring and summer. The summer of the mouse just beheading employees left and right, essentially, professionally speaking. They've got to love the fact, and I say this facetiously, they have to love the fact that you have Aaron Rodgers on your network, one of your prized possessions, sitting there spouting nonsense again. And if I'm Travis Kelce, man, don't punch down. You're a multiple Super Bowl winner. You're one of the hottest commodities the NFL has. Don't punch down on Aaron Rodgers. I'd be like, Aaron who? Oh, is that guy playing in the league right now? Oh, that guy? You mean the guy that's on crutches? Who might never play down in the NFL again? You mean that guy who's just searching for relevancy? Because right now, he doesn't matter a single bit, and the only reason he has relevancy is because Pat McAfee gives him a platform. That's the only reason. That's the only reason Aaron Rodgers has any relevancy, is because Pat McAfee, who wants to make sure he has at least one day a week where people are watching his show, Pat McAfee has to give Aaron Rodgers that platform in exchange. It's the deal with the devil, right? It's TV's version of the deal with the devil. Except Pat McAfee likes being in bed with the devil. And they'll all laugh and ha ha ha, and you'll see Pat do this when Aaron says something controversial. You'll see Pat do this. Like a schoolboy. Like, dude, you're a grown man with a platform and a responsibility. What a joke. And the fact that ESPN is going to let this happen to their network, watch it basically for an hour or 2 hours every day become Barstool Sports. Boy, ESPN, you must be really proud of what you've done. I wouldn't work there if they offered me the best time slot on the planet because they're a joke. They're a joke. They don't like rabble-rousers. Then they go and hire Pat McAfee. Your company's a joke. Jesus. That's how we wrap up this Thursday edition of the show. Pat McAfee and Aaron Rodgers are made for each other. Those two are absolutely made for each other. They're the class clowns. They really are. They're the class clowns. You know what ends up happening to the class clowns later on in life? At some point, the class clowns, trust me, I've run into them in my post-high school days. Doesn't always end well. But hey, man, grab that bag if you're Pat McAfee. Grab those headlines and that attention that you so desperately crave if you're Aaron Rodgers. It's a perfect marriage between the two sides. It really is. I'll see you tomorrow.